Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another ITY video. I have with me today Jack Huffard. He is the co-founder and Chief Operating Officer and President of Tenable Network Security. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Alex. Nice to be here.
So I thought I'd ask you to tell us a bit about Tenable's history and how you stand out from the competition.
Great. Tenable's was founded in 2002. One of our the name Tenable comes from the word tenere, or to have or to hold,
which is from Latin,
right?
Yeah.
And it actually was something that we pulled together to go to a security conference, and actually has served us well. It translates very well into a lot of different languages.
Sure.
The company was started in 2002, co-founded by myself and two technologists, Ron Gula, who wrote the Dragon Intrusion Detection System years ago, and then Renaud Darrison, who is a Frenchman, who wrote a very popular open source scanner called Nessus, which is one of the foundations of what we do today. We are located in Columbia, Maryland, which is just north of Washington, D.C. in the U.S., but we have folks around the world. We're approaching 800 employees, and some of the most wonderful enterprise customers you can imagine.
Sure. And so I could see there you've got the tagline, the market-defining continuous network monitoring solution. So I can see things like network assessments, vulnerability management. So just tell us about some of the services you offer to your clients and the short version of why that's different to other network companies who might have, endpoint security protection services, that sort of thing.
Sure. So we've taken it, if you understand what Nessus does, it's a network vulnerability scanner. So our foundation has been based on vulnerability assessments, vulnerability management, and I think we've taken that whole process and brought a lot of different views to it, where we drive a lot of assessments through not just active, the Nessus type of scanning, but also we've created technologies and sensors that sniff the network, that log the network, that are on endpoints, that drive a lot of real-time information. And when we started the company back in 2002, there was no such thing as mobile or cloud, but these technologies that we've created really help a company have real-time visibility into their situation. And I think that we have, from the very beginning, tried to drive as much as we can visibility for the folks in the enterprise to understand what's on their network, what state it's in, and what is the best ability to remediate whatever issues they find. And I think that it's very important for companies today to get their arms around their organization. And it's the organization now is evolving. There's a lot of different technologies being brought to bear. And
presumably you're filling a lot of gaps that traditional security vendors just aren't filling.
Yes, I would say that our traditional competitors do a similar assessment from an active scanning perspective, but they are missing technologies to gather during the gaps. And I think you and I both would believe that hackers want to live in the space between, the time between. And what we're doing is eliminating those times. It's in real time. Our customers are seeing things as they happen, so that they can do a better job of dealing with that issue. Instead of, you've heard all the stories about malware being found 2 or 3 years later. It's been sitting on the network.
No one's detected it.
No one's detected it. But by bringing all of these technologies to bear on the same problem, when things move around, we're seeing them. And we're making the invisible visible. Sure. It's like walking into a room and turning a light on.
Yeah. Well, it's also a blended series of protections across potentially different platforms and different solutions, and everything working together to give you the as robust a protective environment as you can.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of enterprises today have spent a lot of money on security defensive technologies.
Yeah. Inevitably things get in, and when they do, I'm assuming that Tenable's technologies are able to, as you said, uncover that, turn a light on to things that may be doing things on the network that other solutions just aren't detecting or let through in the first place.
That's very true. Yeah. And I would say that we are very focused on the assessment and the detection. but we have built an ecosystem out of the IT infrastructure that when you find the issue, how do you move it to a service desk or to a BMC or to some sort of technology that can remediate the issue. And I think that's a real huge key that our enterprises want to have as end-to-end as much as possible. But for the very large enterprise, they want to also have the ability to review before changes are made on their networks, which is an important thing.
Sure. And I mean, one example that you give is that this migration of corporate data centers and corporate data to the cloud. Whether it's, I mean, of course we have hybrid clouds, but still data's going out there to other people's computers and storage. And you're saying that this will drastically affect security, and that is one of the things that your solutions help companies to deal with.
Yeah, I think the vision for the company hasn't changed in years. We really want to give visibility, and if you look at today, with the emergence of cloud and mobile, the enterprise, what is constructed in the enterprise has to include all of those pieces. I mean,
and they've grown. I mean, as you said, there was no cloud or clouds. I mean, there were data centers probably back in 2002, but not at the scale with which we have them today.
Agreed. And previously you had everything on-prem. You could put a firewall around it and kind of know what's going on. Today's world, when we sit down with CISOs, they want to know, what's on their network.
Yeah.
And the network is their on-prem stuff. It's the stuff in the cloud that they're using, and it's their mobile infrastructure.
It's on employees' BYOD devices.
Right. So you have to be able to draw a circle around the whole thing and say, okay, here's my enterprise now. You may have 30% of it in the cloud, 40% of it here, and 10% of it, if that adds up. But it's
there's another 20% there, but that's
but my point is that we want to get visibility across the entire enterprise, and what the enterprise looks like today is much different than it did 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago. And I think the move to the cloud is happening at such a rapid pace today that it's an exciting time to be in business because it brings so much ability for companies to do things with data that they couldn't do before. But as we talked about earlier, the bad guys are going to live in the space between, and if you're not careful about how you deal with moving to the cloud or managing your mobile infrastructure, if you don't have visibility into that, that's where they're going to live. And I think that it's our job to make that visible, to give as much context to our customers as possible so they can make the right decision on securing the network.
Sure. I mean, there's a famous saying that says, the thinking that's gotten you here isn't the thinking that's going to get you there. And so in that regard, the security and the protocols you've been working on to get you here and keep you secure here aren't the ones that are going to secure in the future. And so that's why you need a solution such as yours to be able to cover every, as many things around the network as possible, especially with this massive growth in the cloud, in third-party apps, in shadow IT. I mean, what are some of the things that you would have brought to market this year that are new to Tenable, all over the, that have really taken your product to the next level?
So I think that we released an agent that is essentially Nessus for the host. A lot of you have a laptop. A lot of companies have employees with laptops, and when you're on a traditional network and you're being assessed, you have to be on that network to be assessed, right? And it's just another sensor that we felt was very important to have. So when your mobile assets are moving around, you have a sense of what state that is. And our customers are really enjoying the fact that because we have so many different types of ways to gather information, whether it's in real-time logs or whether it's in in sniffing mode to understand, just discover things that come on the network, that they can take these pieces and parts and put them in the network in the architectures that do the best to gather that data. And I think that's what sets us apart from our competition and what puts us in a position to be the source of security information for the enterprise. And I think we're taking data from SIEMs, we're taking data from folks that do logs, and we're pushing that through our system, and it really gives incredible context to form the right decisions.
Now, we also see some companies moving away from the traditional PC or workstation and moving to things like Google and Chromebooks, that must have implications for traditional endpoint security solutions. So what are your thoughts in that area?
So I think that the world is going to be living with endpoints for a while. I think the enterprise is going to go to the cloud, and is going fast.
But people are still using PCs at the same time.
It's going to be a hybrid infrastructure for a while.
That hybrid term again.
So I do believe that there's a requirement for endpoints today. But I would say that securing the endpoint long term is probably going to be a declining market, because most people are going to get to their data through dumb terminals or devices that don't host the data. The data is going to be in the cloud, and you're just going to have to get there through.
I mean, that device might have your own personal data, but all the work data is coming via some sort of encrypted connection, maybe a virtualized desktop or whatever it might be.
Right. I think the bigger issue is that in this new world of containerization and DevOps, that there is, as you create all of these new applications that are pushed out into the cloud, that's where we're going to be looking at the next generation of security R&D.
Yeah, and that must be where you are spending your R&D dollars now.
A lot of them are about around that problem, and I think if you look at the DevOps environment, it's the Wild West right now. But it's an exciting time to be a developer because of what you can do. But we do think that CISOs around the world are getting asked by their CEO, am I secure, and can I go to the cloud? And they have to be able to
they have to be able to say yes and mean it.
Absolutely, but it's DevOps, right?
Yeah.
I'd say we're little D and big O.
Yeah.
We want the operations side to be able to feel confident that as these containers get built and the data is put up there, that people are accessing it in a secure way, and that they're built well. So I think that you'll see a lot of innovation in the marketplace around that, but I think we're going to be a leader in trying to think through how you do that.
Sure. And so what do you think of the control frameworks such as the ISO and NIST cybersecurity frameworks?
So these have become a lot, they all come up in most of our discussions with customers today. A lot of CISOs are like, where do I start? If I get visibility, what do I, how do I benchmark myself against, a standard? We've been working with a lot of customers in Australia and Asia on the ISO standards. We have been working, there's a one called the NIST cybersecurity standard that came out of the US, and it's a great way for a CISO to say, and a CIO to sit down and go, okay, this is how we want to run our network. And you're collecting the data anyway. It allows you to say, okay, where are my control points, and what security situation are they in? And I want to move from X to Y and Z time frame. And it's a wonderful way for them to put their arms around the organization. And policy starts at the top. The CEO has to say, I want integrity of the network. I want to run to this standard, and that drives a lot of activities down the pipe to get it done. And it's good. And I think that there's even more to be done on the benchmarking side. And I think the cloud is going to help us do that, so.
Sure. Now, you mentioned customers in Australia, and I just thought I'd ask, what brings you to Australia this week, or to the region? And I know most customers don't want anyone to know what security solutions they're using, but if you could mention the sort of customer, the sectors in which that you're selling to in Australia, and do you have any offices here as yet?
So we have been growing very quickly. We're close to 800 employees now around the world. We have about 45 folks in Asia, 10 of those that are here in Australia. We are in the process of getting an office to locate. They're kind of distributed because they're more talking to customers on a daily basis.
Sure.
But we have our headquarters is in Singapore, and we also have a small office in Hong Kong. And it's been a great. We've been embraced pretty nicely here in Australia from our customers. It's definitely the biggest market for us today in Asia.
Great to hear.
A lot of demand, and
yeah.
We've been doing a lot of work with the financial services sector, the retail sector, the government sector, and they've been wonderful in giving us feedback. We feel like we're collaborating, and at the end of the day, our goal is to become strategic to these customers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to be, we want them to look to Tenable to say, "Am I secure?" and
Mm-hmm.
to bring the technology to bear that will allow them to do that. So I think it's, you know, we're listening.
That's a very important thing for a company to be saying. That's for sure. So if we look into the crystal ball, how do you think the market for security and your products and hackers and everything will evolve over the next 10 years? I know it's a long time frame, but you must have some thoughts around that.
Yeah, I think that the way that we're approaching security is a holistic view,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I keep going back to visibility and context is kind of where we're, as the IT infrastructures continue to evolve, we want to apply the same thought process.
Mm-hmm.
It may require different technologies to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, that's going to be the vision for the company is the one place you can go as a CISO to understand, am I secure? And I think that's a different than looking for threats.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a more focused area on understand what's on the network,
Mm-hmm.
lock the network down, make it more defendable, so that you know, whatever comes at you from a threat perspective just bounces off. You know, and I think that's probably a boring way, but if you do it correctly,
It's
you
a
know,
good one.
99.9% of your threats will just fall to the floor versus get into the network.
Sure. And when you talk about visibility and knowing what's on the network, I mean what that is knowledge, and as they say, knowledge is power. I mean, if you don't have the right information, you'd be acting blindly.
Right.
So I always like to shake things up just a little bit as we get towards the end of the interview, and just ask if you could please share the best piece of advice that you've ever received to help you get where you are today.
So I've got a couple.
Yeah, please. Very happy to hear it.
One come from my father,
Mm-hmm.
who said, the key to life, Jack, is to read.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in this world are, you can learn by reading.
Sure,
And I think
absolutely.
that's huge. Second piece of advice comes from a mentor, a business mentor, and he said, do your homework.
Yeah.
And I think that we've applied, both of those to what we're doing today. We allow, enterprises to do their homework on their network so
Mm-hmm.
that they can make the right call. And I think that by doing your homework, you're not going to be surprised.
Well, you got much better results.
And
Yeah.
whether you're interviewing somebody to be hired,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're going and dealing with a really serious issue on a network,
Mm.
making sure you do your homework and then bring the right thing, I think has been a really big piece of advice that we've used, and it's served me well and served the company really well too.
Yeah, no, I can certainly vouch for that. So do you have any final messages for ITY viewers and readers, and for your current and future customers?
No, I would say that if you're interested in understanding and having visibility in your network, you should look at Tenable solutions if you haven't heard of us.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we are the de facto standard for vulnerability management with regard to our Nessus scanner.
Mm-hmm.
Many of you may be familiar with it. We have a lot more comprehensive solutions to bring to bear on the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can visit us at tenable.com.
Sure. Jack, thank you very much for your time, and hope to talk to you again in the future.
Alex, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.